I remember the lead up to the Fox engine, and there were a lot of like demos, and I never, even by that point, I never really cared much about that stuff because I had remembered that sort of 2008 through 2012 period that we talked about in the NGS4 episode, where every game was like, there's a dynamic hair receding system, and every NPC you meet in the game has a stepson, and there's a stepson affinity system.
New mission available.
How relevant, if at all, is the concept of tastefulness to any given piece of media's quality or value? While almost every vector of criticism is subjective, this one can vary so much, even between people with largely comparable experiences. The things governing our own internal sense of it are nebulous, and more than any other metric used by critics, it can swing wildly from one day to the next. Now, that's not to say that nothing is ever in bad taste. If I told you that the Impractical Jokers are remaking the 1999 film The War Zone, or that Keemstar has directed a musical centered on race relations in America, it would probably be safe to assume that most people would find these hypothetical films at least a little bit tasteless. But back in the realm of the highly subjective, I think anyone's individual sense of taste is perhaps the least interesting perspective through which to evaluate anything. This is certainly the case with Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes. Released in 2014 for PC and 7th and 8th generation consoles, Ground Zeroes is one of the most incendiary entries in the entirety of the Metal Gear catalog. After 14 years of faithful service, fan acclaim, and some truly selfless acts by David Hayter, the English-language voice of Solid Snake and Big Boss was unceremoniously tossed aside for the star of Fox's 24, the scion of Canadian Social Democrat royalty, and the enemy of Christmas trees everywhere, Kiefer Sutherland. I'm a big defender of Sutherland's performance in his two games, but it was a pretty rotten thing to do to Hayter, a guy who smiled through every convention and even took a massive pay cut on the Twin Snakes, so all of the original voice cast from MGS1 could be brought back and paid their full fees. Then there was the actual game itself. While almost universally lauded for its completely overhauled controls, graphics, and level design, this was still a nearly full-price game that could be finished in under 3 hours, side content and all. Perhaps the most enduring controversy is the incredibly graphic, dark, and sometimes sickening nature of the story. Going from the silly and fun Peace Walker to this is the textbook definition of tonal whiplash. It's akin to having an entire season of Arthur and then having Michael Haneke direct the finale. Ground Zeroes, after 11 years, is still the most sober and clear-eyed depiction of the United States' torture and kidnapping facility in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. It's a Romana clef named Camp Omega, and this all takes place decades before the actual global war on terror. But it's unmistakable. Like the real-life Guantanamo Bay and the U.S.'s many other real-life black sites, there is horrifying, stomach-churning sexual abuse at Camp Omega. This may be the most enduring of the game's controversies. I've seen countless retrospectives, reviews, theories, essays, and videos that I otherwise largely agree with call these scenes tasteless and exploitative. I certainly don't want to force people to like something that I have a different opinion on, and we don't always have control over what kinds of things affect us. But in my personal view, I found this criticism strange. These scenes are not silly. They are not trivializing, and I really don't ever want to meet the person who finds them titillating in the way that exploitation material is supposed to be. They're fucking nauseating and very difficult to get through, but they're also depicting the very real and dehumanizing practices carried out by America and its allies. Even the format of the scene itself, an audio tape recovered by protagonist Big Boss, echoes the real-life practices of Paraguayan dictator and U.S. crony Alfredo Stroessner around the time frame this game depicts. Of course, because it really happened, in and of itself, is the worst reason to depict something in fiction. But I really don't think that's the sole reason for either this scene or any number of horrifying things that we will witness as we venture into Ground Zeroes, the second entry in Big Boss's 3-part journey to hell. So I have incredibly vivid memories of not just buying this game, but my first playthrough, and just my entire experience with it. I got this when it came out in 2014. It was my last year of college, and I was already feeling really stupid for making $11 an hour but buying an Xbox One. And I knew that this game was incredibly short and still $40 at the time. But I have really fond memories of playing it for the first time. I've gone back and played it a billion times. It's I wouldn't call it like the best entry in the series for a few reasons, chiefly among them like the length.
Yeah.
But there are some things it does better than any other entry, and there are some days where I feel like this is one of my favorite games ever made.
I would agree. I think relative to its size and scope, it is one of the best entries in this series. It looks gorgeous. It is obviously a darker turn for the series narratively, but I think it sets up this new chapter wonderfully. And in fact, without getting ahead of ourselves, I think a big part of why The Phantom Pain disappointed me in many ways was due to how effectively this game gassed me up. It's pretty difficult to top the way that Kojima throws you into this new visual style, new vocal performances that match that style. The transition from, as bizarre as it is, the transition from Peace Walker to this new embodiment of Metal Gear Solid, I think is wholly successful. And I think I cut this out of a previous episode, and I later saw, in any case, that Kojima made this comparison himself. To me, this is the tanker chapter to Phantom Pain's plant chapter. And it's just pretty much 10 out of 10 and very replayable, and is sort of the best synecdoche of the main game that was to follow. Yeah.
So that is something that I remember more vividly this go around with it. The feeling of anticipation it gave me for Phantom Pain, and so the kinds of things that a lot of us were thinking about and talking about, the incredible over-analysis of all the trailers for Phantom Pain. Mm-hmm. The big thing I remember, especially with my first playthrough of this game, and then the side ops, was the sense of scale that it imparted. Mm. Not in terms of like game scale, not in terms of like, oh, the map in fucking Phantom Pain is 20 times the size of it. Like that who gives a shit? Yeah. I mean, this game in Ground Zeroes, it came out around when a lot of big studios were either working on or had come out with really bloated open world games that, you know, their world was 20 times the size of GTA San Andreas or whatever, and no one goes back and plays those games. I mean more in the scale, the scope and the scale of the story, and where it would sit both in the history of the Metal Gear canon and sort of real life history. Because this game seemed like it was still Metal Gear. It still had that personality that was in a lot of times missing from Metal Gear Solid 4, but it took on a very deliberately serious tone in a way that I felt worked incredibly well, and it felt like it was going to be intersecting with real world things, both contemporary in how it depicted Guantanamo and getting even more naked in its depiction of U.S. and U.S. aligned security services, but also sort of latter Cold War history. That was the super exciting thing about Phantom Pain, was that there was this grimier, like palpable scuzz around the tone, the voice performances, everything. and that it was going to take place during like this really fucking scuzzy period of time. And, again, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, I'm a big defender of a lot of things in Phantom Pain, though I graded on an extreme curve.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they should have given it another year,
Mm-hmm.
but only the most deluded, like, no, it's supposed to feel unfinished guy can say that you succeeded.
Yeah.
In meeting its expectations.
I agree. And I think with this game, I am more likely these days to go back and replay Ground Zeroes and its side missions, which are excellent, than I am to go back and replay Phantom Pain, a game that I poured hundreds of hours into. That is Phantom Pain. Because I think it's a strange thing. It's like when you go back and just play this, you can kind of suspend your knowledge of what came next, and it still feels like there's this potential and possibility that you're getting a glimpse of in this title that is exciting and palpable before you kind of put the controller down and then realize we had our follow-up. I guess it's inevitable. I want to stop trying to throw forward, my observations into the Phantom Pain side of things in talking about this game. I think you can talk about this game solo, but a big part of it is just how much you considered it a vertical slice, of what was to come. And it was incredibly successful. The Phantom Pain, in a large part, is victim of the success of Ground Zeroes.
10 days ago, we got reports that Paz was still alive. She's being held for interrogation at a camp on the southern tip of Cuba. If she's still alive, we need her on our side. We'll send a chopper from across the Cuban border. The only catch is, you go in solo.
Fine. I like some alone time now and then.
Enter the compound from the south cliff. Secure Chico and Paz, then report back from the rendezvous point.
We'll get to Phantom Pain when we get to it, but it's impossible to not talk about it when you talk about this game. I think we've gone in reverse directions with Phantom Pain. I have I also put hundreds of hours into it when it came out, and did FOB stuff and all this shit, and then just dropped it. I don't know how much everyone has followed the never be game over stuff, and the people who 100% believe that there was a hidden chapter. There was a hidden third chapter that we would all get to play if a server achieved nuclear disarmament in the online FOB stuff. This is so fucking sad. There are people who thought that we would wait 9 years till 2024 and then they'd release the third chapter.
Oh my God.
And that makes me so fucking sad to think about.
Yeah, there are those people.
Yeah, there's this community on Reddit called Never Be Game Over, it's filled with people who, at this point, it is kind of like a cargo cult, who believe that there is some sense of that we're going to get either a third chapter or a surprise sequel, and that everything, even Kojima's to them supposed falling out with Konami, is all part of a ruse that's like an ARG.
Amazing.
Amazing. That's now gone on for like 12 fucking years, I guess.
He's been these Death Stranding games. This is all cover. He hates working on those.
Well, here's the amazing thing. They say that the Death Stranding games they're part of a hidden like Kojima unified universe.
Mm-hmm.
And the evidence that people point to for a lot of this stuff is they always use the Phantom Pain ceiling fan.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, that this helicopter looks like a ceiling fan. And I go, oh, I wonder why.
Oh my goodness.
It's really fucking depressing. I like to think about a guy who, like, he got married in 2014, and then he just spent the first 5 years of his marriage like trying to like rid his server of nukes so he'd get the third chapter.
Oh my god.
He's lost everything, and then 2024 happens, and there's no third chapter.
That's
God,
amazing.
I think I've wasted a lot of my life playing these games, but it can always be worse.
Talk about hypnotherapy. They're doing it to themselves.
Yeah. That is all to say, though, that my enjoyment of both this game, because part of like being disappointed in Phantom Pain meant that for a while I wouldn't even go back to this game as much, because I would remember that feeling of anticipation and feeling like, oh my God, like, is Ed Meese gonna be in this game? I was so fucking excited. Because that specific, like, late 70s through early 80s Cold War period is so one of my favorite periods of history. It's one of my favorite. I will watch any shitty movie that has a big enough budget if it takes place in that time frame, just because I like the look of it. I like the blocky technology. I watched that entire fucking dog shit Trump movie just because I like the big phones so much. Let's get into the new look. I mean, this was the first Fox Engine game.
Yeah.
This was a proprietary engine developed by the then subsidiary to Konami, Kojima Productions. And only 3 games ever came out on the Fox Engine, and one of them was fucking Metal Gear Survive.
Yes.
Look, there have been...
The Stephen Baldwin of the Metal Gear Solid games.
Yeah. There is an example of, a great Metal Gear game without Kojima at the helm in Metal Gear Rising. And then there's the example of how it's probably going to look for the most part in Metal Gear Survive.
Yep.
But, I remember the lead up to the Fox Engine, and there were a lot of like demos, and I never... Even by that point, I never really cared much about that stuff because I had remembered that sort of 2008 through 2012 period that we talked about in the NGS4 episode, where every game was like, there's a dynamic hair receding system, and every NPC you meet in the game has a stepson, and there's a stepson affinity system. And, none of that stuff is ever in the game, or if it is, it's actually just annoying and, like, makes your Xbox 360, like, chug along. Yeah. But not only was the Fox Engine, like, fucking incredible looking, and this game still looks fucking fantastic.
I don't want to get too into this, but I just played through Delta. We've been kind of tiptoeing around Delta. I think we said our piece on it in the MGS3 episode. If it gets more people to play the series, great. I think we're agreed that it's unnecessary, and having played it, I can say that it's inoffensive to me. But a lot is being said about how great Delta looks and the Unreal Engine of it all. Frankly, the visuals didn't work for me in the cutscenes of Delta, but I was playing this as I was playing Delta, and this is far superior. I mean, obviously the graphical fidelity in Delta is higher because it just came out in 2025, but this game is the true idea of what a more photorealistic, grounded, textured Metal Gear looks like.
Yeah, and like, again, Delta probably has like 10 times as many fucking triangles.
Sure, who cares?
I mean, right, exactly. I'm sure the stubble model looks better. But this is both a vindication of how important art direction is.
Yep.
Yes, even for graphical fidelity, because this is an 11-year-old game. This is a game that was on 7th generation consoles, and despite like probably having a fraction as many like polygons in the models and everything, it looks better partly because there is a confident and cohesive art direction behind all the characters and the world itself and how everything looks and how light reflects off of it, how there's texture to everything. But also, not just that, with all the dynamic lighting and everything, and like a fucking amazing physics engine.
Yeah.
Physics engines don't get talked about as much as they used to. Ragdoll physics used to be like a huge deal if your game had it. There was even like this mini trend around like upgrading your computer's physics card. It was like pretty ridiculous. But I think physics it's an incredibly important part of games that often we don't talk about it as much anymore because ragdoll physics aren't as exciting and everyone has seen it. But just as far as, again, how you and the other characters that you are fighting against or literally manipulating their bodies, it's incredibly important. And this is another vindication of having a holistic vision. Because I don't think you can divorce either the artistic or just more technical aspects of the graphics or the physics engine or any of it from the very intentional tone and groundedness that they're trying to establish here.
I think that the new character model or design of Big Boss is pretty much perfect. I think I think they were trying to go for a younger version of this model in Delta, because this to me is, if we are to leave the old, more stylized depictions of the characters, this to me is about as perfect a sketch of what Big Boss would really look like as you can get. I love it. I think they did partially base it on Sutherland's face. It's his sneaking suit, which I think is, again, the Peace Walker sneaking suit. Looks awesome. Kaz looks great. We don't see him a ton in this game, but he looks awesome. And I texted you the other day when I was booting it up. The opening cinematic for this, I don't think is topped ever. I mean, there's great cinematics in Phantom Pain, but again, talk about just a game hyping this new version, this new chapter of Metal Gear. At Camp Omega, slinking around Skullface and not getting quite a good look at him, and then having the conversation between Kaz and Big Boss start to overlay, and then that great reveal of Big Boss on the cliff and the Cyclops-style night vision goggles as lightning and thunder smash over your head. It's pretty breathtaking for 2014 or now in a game. And I remember just being completely hooked from that moment.
Yeah, it is. I would completely agree with that. I would go as far to say that the best directing that I've ever seen from Kojima is in this game.
Yeah,
and there are two specific scenes I'm thinking of. I think the best directed scene is the opening.
We'll send a chopper from across the Cuban border. You should be back at Mother Base in time for lunch. You'll probably just miss our guests. The only catch is you go in solo. The politically sensitive nature of the mission needs backup is not an option.
Fine. I like some alone time now and then.
that opening is fucking perfect.
Yep.
It both imparts that sense of scale that we were referring to, but there's also this great sense of mystery.
Yeah. Yes.
And this is one of the things that I do feel like the Phantom Pain actually succeeded at a lot at times. They did a good job of building the mystery of figuring. You are desperately trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Who is this guy? What are they trying to do? But Phantom Pain, just by virtue of having a holistic artistic direction that they completely pulled off, just the little things. Like, I think about how Chico has that the wire going into that sort of tracheotomy thing in his throat.
Yep.
And it's so, there's so much like fucking repulsive like body horror stuff that really makes
the
your
bolts
skin crawl.
in his ankles.
Yeah, there's so much, like, just the way that like bloodstained clothes look in this game. But going back to the design of Snake himself, I completely agree. This is the best depiction of him that there will probably ever be.
Yep.
And I've said before in this series and a bunch of other times, I'm a big defender of Sutherland as Big Boss and as Venom.
Let's talk about him, because I think we agree on this.
Yeah. So part of the reason that I love that I love this game and I love this version of Snake is we've talked a lot about how there's no singular moment where Big Boss goes, okay, I'm bad now.
Right.
But I've always interpreted Peace Walker, and especially the end of Peace Walker, to be this is sort of the heroism dying in Big Boss. Specifically, this moment when Kaz tells him that he knew about Paz, he was working with Cypher, that kind of devastates him. And I wouldn't say he's nihilistic, but the combination of him believing in his own legend as he already was in Peace Walker and the realities of running this like fucking massive mercenary corporation, and now sort of tossing the boss's memory aside out of bitterness, there isn't a greater ideal for him to believe in anymore. And it's not that he's not really the same guy that we see in the MSX games, but there is a palpable scuzziness around him now.
Yes.
And that's a, I think, vitally important thing with Sutherland playing him.
Yeah.
Again, we love David Hayter.
Yes.
And David Hayter, he not just undersung as an incredibly selfless guy doing shit like taking that massive pay cut for Twin Snakes.
Auditioning every time, apparently.
Every fucking time. Going to the conventions, answering everyone's stupid fucking questions. Like a complete sweetheart of a guy. Did an incredible job.
Yes. You could argue, I would argue that MGS4 does not work without him in that game. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Like, he is what saves that game.
He was the heart and soul of 4.
Absolutely.
And even more challenging things like that Outer Heaven speech at the end of Peace Walker. He nails it.
Yep.
But there's just something so fundamentally different about Big Boss after Peace Walker.
Yeah. He's kind of blasé. The one thing I really like about him in this is that I think about this moment where, we'll get to it later, but Paz is on the helicopter with them. They've rescued her, but the mother base is blowing up and they realize she sold them out, or Kaz is freaking out. And she kind of staggers around because Kaz he's trying to grab her and choke her. And she bumps into Big Boss and he just kind of backs off of her. Like he's not going to intervene and help her.
Yeah. Like his little like hands up thing.
Yeah. He's just like, hey, you're on your own, and in the beginning, he even says, oh, should we kill her? They're not going to rescue her because she's going to be tortured. They're there because they want to learn more about Cypher and prevent Cypher from learning about them. And that is far from the depiction. We kind of can talk about how Peace Walker, sort of is this self-reflexive portrayal of a more heroic big boss than the events actually imply. But it's at this point, we're not getting that. We're kind of seeing him more and more, as you say, as this sort of scuzzy, compromised, and with every day, less and less heroic and more scheming and degenerate man.
I think that his ambivalence is super important here, too.
Yeah.
Because it's not that he's like a genius mastermind schemer. He's not fucking Veet from Watchmen. In fact, he's one of the things I love about this version of the character is he's kind of a shitty leader. Like, I always think about how Huey sets up the supposed IAEA inspection.
Yeah.
And he just, like, his rationale is like, well, we'll look really shitty if we, like, suddenly say no. But it's like you let Huey go over your head like that.
He's bored with that stuff.
There's a real ambivalence to him. There's a great one of the first audio tapes you get is Kaz and Snake talking about the main mission of Ground Zero is going to get Chico and Paz. And they talk about it just on the radio in the main mission, this idea that they may have to kill Paz. But the way that they put it in this tape, where they sort of weigh the pros and cons of like going into this facility while the inspection is happening. Like what is the risk of just like letting Cypher torture her? And Kaz says something like, and if she doesn't spill, there's always room for her on the ocean floor. And the way that Snake just goes, I don't have any problem with that, is just so scuzzy and ambivalent.
Yeah.
And Robin Atkins Downs, too, does an incredible fucking job.
He's set up great in Peace Walker, and he obviously rises to the occasion. But in this and the next game, I would say for him, Phantom Pain is elevated by Robin Atkins Downs in that game.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you specifically have to call out the performance in this game, because it's different. There's some subtle but pretty big differences between his performance in Phantom Pain and Ground Zeroes and Peace Walker.
Yeah.
Because there's more menace in his voice in Ground Zeroes than there is in Peace Walker.
Yes.
In Peace Walker, there is a silliness and sort of vain pompousness to Kaz,
kind of like a swagger,
lovable.
like a ladies' man.
Yeah. Whereas in Phantom Pain, he's this shell of his former self, but there's just enough of the person peeking through that it's horrifying.
Yeah.
In this game, there's way more menace and venom than there is in Peace Walker. But he hasn't been hollowed out yet.
He's not the Pillow Man yet, first of all.
Yeah.
He has all of his arms and legs,
all of his limbs.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a really subtle thing to pull off. Not Kaz, after witnessing everyone he knows die for something arguably he's arguably
responsible for.
Partly responsible for.
Yeah.
But Kaz and Snake, after a year or so of the realities of running a mercenary business, of losing their loftier ideals, and just living this day-to-day as these types of, like, barnacles on geopolitical movements in the latter Cold War. Just these guys who
no one's Che Guevara here.
No one is comparing either of these guys to Che Guevara.
Yeah.
These guys are fucking scumbags.
Yeah.
And the game is very clear about it.
Yeah. And I totally agree that Sutherland's voice is, I think, Kojima, as much as I think we can both agree the way in which it was handled was not good. I think he did make the right decision. I think he knew.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't accuse him of not knowing what he wants, and he knew what he needed. He knew what he wanted, and people rag on him, maybe with a grain of truth, that he just gets a buzz working with Hollywood types. But I'm sorry, I think Sutherland was a great casting choice. I think he is a very good Big Boss, circa the 70s and 80s. There is a smoother continuity, despite different voice actors for Big Boss, because you obviously have Hader for Snake Eater and Peace Walker, then you have Sutherland for the middle period, and then I think Richard Doyle does a great job in MGS4 as the kind of more patrician, experienced, world-weary Big Boss at the very, presumably in the MSX games were we to have dialogue in those, and then by MGS4 when he's resuscitated. So it's an important sort of middle chapter here that Sutherland has to link those two versions of the character. And I'm with you. People complain. People say, "Oh, there's only one real Snake." I don't agree. I think this is pitch perfect.
Yeah. Here's the difference. The Big Boss or Naked Snake or whatever you want to call it, portrayed by David Hayter. Here's a little moral test. Let's face Big Boss at every period of his life that we've seen him in with the same dilemma that we face Solid Snake with in MGS4.
Mm-hmm.
Let's imagine him in Solid Snake's role where, okay, Big Boss, you have this disease that you have 6 months. If you don't kill yourself in 6 months, this could infect everyone in the world and kill them. The Big Boss in 3 and for a lot of Peace Walker, for most of Peace Walker, I think he eventually blows his brains out.
Mm-hmm.
He eventually does that.
Mm-hmm.
Kiefer Snake would get with Ocelot and go, okay, so I have this disease that's going to kill everyone in the world. What we need to do is we need to kill everyone except for like 30 women. And then we're going to impregnate them and replace 6 billion people.
Yeah. There would be...
We have to kill them. We have to kill them because it's like meaner to make them die of this fucked up disease I have.
Yep.
By the way, I made a cure, but only you get it because you're my buddy.
Yep.
So let's kill all these people. And then he would kill all those people. And then when there's no one left and the 30 women in the world are pregnant with the people that are going to repopulate the planet with immunity to his disease, he goes, I'm probably too hard on myself, but I feel like I'm partly responsible for killing all these people.
And
a little bit.
Final form MSX Big Boss would be like, let's take my disease to Mars. Let's get the rest of the solar system infected by Fox Die.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know what you mean. This middle period, he'd be like, this is going to be really evil and rough, but I think there's a way to minimize the damage if you take the long view here and just trust me on this one. You know, I know it seems really bad, but I'm trying here. And then the next step is when he's just like, let's let her rip. You know. So yeah. I agree. That's a good test.
Any version of Ocelot would be like, can we put a womb inside me? Can I be one of the women? Can you get me pregnant?
I mean, yeah, I can definitely, in every version of Ocelot, in Josh Keaton, he'd be like, yeah, let's do it. And then in Phantom Pain, Ocelot, he'd be like, well, if you say so, boss. And then in later games...
I've been told I have pretty wide hips.
In the later ones, he'd be cackling and piloting a ray, going like, I've designed a new ray that can be impregnated by you.
And we can put my brain in the ray.
I can have sex with you for eternity. Yeah, so that's just now in that sense he is a consistent character, Ocelot. I think we've made the case. So shall we explore Camp Omega?
Kept you waiting, huh?
The only real criticism I have of Camp Omega is I would have liked to have seen more interiors.
Sure.
And that's actually a criticism that kind of carries over to Phantom Pain.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, I don't consider that a huge deal for this game, at least, because the thing that marks this, besides not concentrating on quality over size, the thing that marks this is like very different from open world design philosophy, especially during the second Obama term era of gaming.
Yeah.
Is there's just the thing that always shocks me when I go back to this, or really when I go back to Phantom Pain, is most of these missions, all of these missions in Ground Zeroes, whether they are at night, at day, whatever configuration of guards, whether they're on alert at the start of the mission or not, broad daylight or whatever, any angle you can think of, any combination of tactics or weaponry, how you approach it, how you whether you're trying to achieve every optional objective, extract every single person you can extract or not, everything works.
Yep.
Everything works from every single angle. There's always tension. There's always a way for you to get an S rank.
Yeah.
It is a little narrower, the scoring criteria in this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little narrower in this game compared to Phantom Pain.
Sure.
They deduct points for killing, whereas you are just awarded points for not killing in Phantom Pain.
Mm-hmm.
But I still really like that no matter what, to within reason, there are multiple quote unquote perfect ways to take on everything.
And as you say, just every crevice of the base and different missions, we can get into the side missions, but different missions. But if you're playing on hard for the main mission, it's a genuinely challenging and therefore really rewarding piece of Metal Gear. Maybe one of the, I would say one of the best in this series.
That is another kind of bit of whiplash between this game and Peace Walker. We talked about it in that episode, but Peace Walker is the non-grindy, non-boss fight stuff is incredibly fucking easy, especially when you get the snaking suit.
Yeah.
Again, graded on a curve, PSP, blah, blah, blah. But there is a night and day difference.
Yes.
Between the guards in that game, who I always hated this. When I held them up with a banana and I would run around to the front, they saw I had a banana, they would still like get down on the ground like cowards.
Yeah.
Compared to the sometimes suicidal Marines in this game, I'm sticking an FAL in their face. I've already shot them in the leg. They're still pulling out a pistol.
And all of a sudden, they're just like, "No, you know what? Fuck you!" And then they swing around and try to.
But that was something that really, really excited me, especially the first time I played it. There's like almost unlimited options in how you can approach any given situation, but there's barely ever a time in this game where, I walk past a guard, whether it's a day or night or fucking whatever, and I think, okay, well, in real life, that guy would have seen me. They can catch you out from much farther distances than they could in pretty much any other game in this series, I would say. I have an entire thing about enemy AI in games and how after Fear, people just stopped working on it, and it's one of the things in games that has gone backwards. And to that end, there is some silliness with the AI in both this and Phantom Pain, but for the most part, it is just so much better than what I see in almost any other contemporary stealth game, or any other type of action game in the last 10 years of any genre. For the most part, we joked about them being suicidal during the holdups, but when you are actually in a firefight, they usually don't do things that make it so stupidly easy for you that it kind of ruins the immersion for you.
Yeah.
And it's a comprehensive, but I would say very fair series of challenges for the player.
It's a real jump from easy to hard or normal to hard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's, endless options for how you can negotiate. You know, like a trio of guards searching an area, a guy in a watchtower, etc. But yeah, when you fuck up, and in this game that can mean, moving a half second too early from 60 meters away.
Yes.
If you don't want to just reload the level, you're going to have to work for that reset in this way that you really didn't have to in Peace Walker.
Yeah.
And I really love that because it I think the abilities that you have in Peace Walker to just hold everyone up with a banana and people don't see you unless you're fucking 10 feet in front of them, and you can fucking one man these ridiculous bullet sponge ladder game grindy vehicle bosses. It doesn't add to Big Boss's legend for me. But this, when there's a real weight and there is enemies have at least the self-preservation and momentary intelligence needed for a suspension of disbelief, even though it takes way fewer bullets and way fewer fuck-ups to kill Big Boss in this game, it actually it adds to his legend way more for me.
Of course.
And it makes that dichotomy between the incredible feats this guy's pulling off and his complete moral and just second to second ambivalence so much more interesting.
Another thing I do like is you didn't really have this in 3 or Peace Walker, but there's no more radar tricks. Now you can tag guys, which is new. And I kind of prefer not tagging guys at this stage. But when you're first playing it, it is a new and kind of novel thing that was a good on-ramp, I think, from the days of vision cones in Solitone Radar that was still present or could still be present in the game with Solid Eye and MGS4. You can't just look in the upper left corner and say, this guy's going to turn right in 5 seconds.
Yeah, so tagging enemies and having it so you see sort of a cutout of them through walls and obstacles. This was an incredibly popular thing to do in games, especially either stealth or open worldy games at this time. This was an Assassin's Creed thing that found its way into everything. I go back and forth with it. Sometimes I do think there are a bunch of, especially in Phantom Pain, earlier game missions that it trivializes. Though there is a comprehensive fix to it. If you have an ultra widescreen monitor, because Konami does not give a shit, these games you can fix them so they display properly on an ultra widescreen monitor. But the icons will be hopelessly off-center and fucked up and a few meters off from where they should be. So you have a general idea of where things are, but it's not that good.
Yeah.
And it ended, I'm kind of joking, but it ended up kind of being perfect.
Well, there is another element I think I can understand using, and it is neat, but I prefer not to use reflex mode. That's new, but you can actually turn that off. You can toggle reflex mode on and off, which is good in both this and Phantom Pain.
Reflex mode, for people who don't know, it is anytime that you are in the process of being caught by a guard, you go into this very, very slow motion segment. I think it's 5 seconds? It's a very long feeling 5 seconds where the enemy moves in slow motion. You don't move fully in normal motion. It's not like the Sandevistan in Cyberpunk, but you move that much faster than them that you have an enormous advantage on them. Reflex mode, I don't really hate the idea, though I do think it should have been shortened.
Yeah.
And then I think it would have probably been perfect.
Yeah.
As it is, it can really trivialize things because in most situations, you have more than enough room and lead time to like tranquilize any enemy. There
is a version of it where it's actually it makes it even more grueling when you get caught, when you can't spin around to find and trank the guy in time, and you're caught in this like slow motion train wreck feeling, which is actually kind of fun and dramatic in and of itself. But most of the time, it's a incredibly generous recovery moment.
It does feel terrible when you're in a car. I've actually found the only way to S rank Ground Zeroes, at least for me, is to get an alert. You have to just fucking hightail it out of the base with pause in your truck and get an alert. The feeling of like the APC clocking you while you're just speeding out of there, trying to get to the evacuation zone, it is terrible because it like you could dive out of the car, but by the time you'd even have your gun out, the reflex is over, and what are you going to do? Trank the fucking APC?
Yeah.
So I did like it then, and I like that you can turn it off.
Yeah, it's good that you have an option. Yeah,
I will say in this game, alerts start pretty much instantly after reflex is done, whereas in Phantom Pain you have like a little like half-second grace period.
Yeah, all
the more reason to turn it off in Phantom Pain. Another undersung aspect, incredible audio design all around.
Oh, I love, and this was a huge bummer for me in Delta. I got used to it, but the trank pistol doesn't sound the way it used to. They give it this big clang now. But I love, even more than Snake Eater, I love the sound of the trank pistol in this game and Phantom Pain. That little blip, that little like squeak or whatever.
Yes.
It's so satisfying when you've got the guy lined up and then you hear that little really wonderful. They've obviously kept some of the old little bleeps and bloops from previous games when you pick up an item or you can't pick up where your inventory is full. You get that little buzz. But then there's these new great little fun noises where we've talked about how these two games go into a darker place and a more grounded place, which is true. But there's still that little whimsy, you know, in sound design and in noises. I mean, there's sound design of like a chopper over your head that is very realistic. But then there's those little kind of fun Metal Gear whimsical sounds.
It's so interesting too, because I would comprehensively say that these last two games in the series, they are way more depressing, way darker, way less silly than MGS4 in every metric. In MGS4,
there's less diarrhea in these games.
Way less. In MGS4, you are unambiguously playing as a heroic, selfless character, and this game especially, you're playing as a fucking scumbag.
Yep.
You were playing as a real piece of shit. But it just, for whatever reason, this just has that little bit of soul and personality that is in every game in the series except for MGS4. Part of that is that sound design, which, like, yes, there are a lot of the same sounds in MGS4, but it's just, I don't know. I think it's partly sound design, but it's partly like, it may be because like it feels like they scaled the silliness with the groundedness of the world in this case. Whereas with MGS4, it felt like they turned like the depressing factors all the way up to 100, but kept the same. They're silly in the exact same way that they would be in like 2.
It's not,
and so there's this weird. Yeah, there's this weird like discordant tone.
Yeah.
Whereas with this and like Phantom Pain is like when you fully acquaint yourself with all the backstory and everything, it is one of the most fucking depressing games ever made.
Oh yeah.
It is a fucking brutal game. but nothing in it but there are still silly elements. None of them feel discordant. Even one that centers on like one of the most harrowing leads in any of their games, in Kaz, and how he appears in Phantom Pain, they still pull off the hamburgers of Kazuhiro Miller.
Yeah, and because they know where to put it. You know, they put it in like a pretty obscure relative to like a casual playthrough of what you might find. A pretty obscure set of tapes. It's like homeopathy. They're like sprinkling the silliness, and it's far more effective in the few places they know to sprinkle it, as opposed to, you know, saturating the game with it like in 4, and somehow it all falls flat, or most of it falls flat. The one, not to go all the way back to visuals, but I will say the other thing that's really lovely is, unlike 4, we're back to colors and like just nice color correction or color timing in this game. Obviously, Ground Zero's there's day and night, but it's photorealistic in a lot of ways. It's giving you real sense of metallic and cold, creepy military base, but flesh tones, you know, there's pink in people's faces and cheeks. There's cool blues, and in the daytime, you know, there's a nice bright big blue sky, unlike 4 where everything is gray sludge and brown, you know. So it's nice to see the game, however dark a turn it's taking, it's not trying to overcompensate through a cheap filter visually. It feels like it makes the game look better as well.
Yeah, and I think that makes, I mean, there have been so many games that have tried to take like either a mature or dark tone and failed horribly. Really showing my age here, but the first example of this I ever remembered was, do you remember fucking Jak and Daxter?
The name I do, but I don't ever think I played them.
It was like a second tier platformer series on the PS2. And for some reason in like 2004, it was about, you know, like a spiky haired 12-year-old and like some fucking lizard or ferret he hangs out with, you know. And then in I think 2004, they had a game come out just called like Jak.
Oh, okay.
And he was like badass.
Dexter died horribly. He died of some terminal disease.
Or no, I think he was in it, and he was like similar to MGS4, discordant comic relief. They also did this with Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia, that Sands of Time, one of the best games of that era. And then they came out with The Warrior Within, the Godsmackification of the series, and fucking ruined it forever. There are so many examples of people trying this in you know, both before and after this, failing horribly. And, you know, even them doing this in the series. And I think what you said about colors, that is a very good insight. A lot of the times when people try this in a sort of whole cloth, unsophisticated way, they just make everything darker and grayer, and they just put the serious filter over it. The reason that all the terrible things depicted in this game stand out so much and you know, have the adequate gravity is because there is the amount of color and light and life in the world that you are navigating actually feels true to life.
Yes.
The proportions feel true to life.
I guess we should get around to what actually happens in the game, in the story.
Yeah.
Snake, yesterday we received official communication from the IAEA. It says, it has come to our attention that your organization recently purchased nuclear fuel from Uzbekistan authorities. We request permission to inspect your facilities.
What a load of bullshit.
So we start out, it's 1975. It's been a year since the events of Peace Walker. This opening segment, I think there's an argument for it being the best directed segment in the entire series, and one of the best directed segments ever seen in any game. The first thing you see is, I guess you could call it kind of like an Old West outfit. That is that how you would describe Skullface's attire?
Yeah, and I just want to add that there's I'm sure you've run into this. There's 2 guards on the base, and you can listen to their conversation about Skullface because a lot of the Marines who are normally the guys occupying this base are wondering who this special team is led by this guy, and one of them goes, "Yeah, what the fuck? He's got a 10-gallon hat and the stuff." And the other guy goes, "I think he's just a Republican."
That was pretty funny.
Yeah,
that was pretty funny.
But yes, Skullface is he's sort of encroaching on Ocelot's whole deal. He likes his Wild West, his cosplay.
But he's unlike Ocelot. This guy has an unfortunate issue. His issue was he was burned horribly as a kid.
Yes.
So his skin has the texture of chewed gum.
Mm-hmm.
He looks horrifying.
Yes.
He is really scary to look at. And I have to say, this is one of the weirder things about Skullface as a villain, because I think the way they set him up is fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. I love the idea of having a villain who is just like a deep state barnacle, like a true apparatchik, a bureaucratic knife fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, at least the iteration we see of him in this game is sort of them taking another stab at the Coldman thing and doing it better.
Yes, he does feel like a second draft in some ways of Coldman. The thing I like about Coldman, we already talked about in Peace Walker, but I like Coldman. I think a lot of fans feel like he's a dud. I like Coldman in the sense of his bizarre, very specific, bizarre theory of peace, which is his whole gimmick. Skullface doesn't really go in that direction, but yes, he does feel like as you say, an apparatchik who now has greater ambitions than his bosses had expected of him.
I think Skullface is a bizarre theory of peace. I mean,
I suppose you're right. Yeah. I think he is, and again, I want to try to limit myself to this game. I love his introduction in this game. I think he is very promising in this game. I don't end up loving where they go with him in Phantom Pain. But I think he is incredibly promising in Ground Zeroes, and this whole opening tracking shot of him.
I will agree with that. There's some things I really love that they did with him in Phantom Pain, though overall, I don't think you can say that he meets the expectations set up here. And part of that is, I think they did such a good job setting him up as like an archetypical deep state villain in this, with a kind of seriousness that we hadn't really seen before in the series. It's the type of thing that made me feel like we would maybe see someone like Ed Meese in this game.
Yeah.
It's sort of absurd to say because Skullface is like a ridiculous looking villain. Mm-hmm. The concept of this character is kind of ridiculous, but there's also this very weighty, real seeming seriousness and gravity to the images of his black helicopter. Mm-hmm. And his really ominous looking like stormtrooper guys. Mm-hmm. I love the design of the XOF guys.
Yes.
They communicate so much instantly. So the thing with like the black light erasing the logo, I fucking love that.
Great.
The diet, I always get non-diegetic and diegetic mixed up, but it's a diegetic rendition of Here's to You, Nicole.
It starts that way and then, kind of pulls back and you hear the full song, but it starts as a tape in Chico's Walkman. Yeah.
Yeah. So, this sort of tapioca skin deep state operative, he is here with a familiar face. He is here with Chico, who now not depicted in 2D in Peace Walker, is no longer blonde. Mm-hmm. He actually looks like a kid from Costa Rica. But Chico has seen better days. The last time we saw him, he did not have this horrifying hole in his trachea that a wire is running through.
Nor the bolts through the tendons on his feet, which we get a better look at later, but you can see in the first scene as well.
Yeah, this is a really fucking shocking way
to
start the game. to open basically with the sort of beloved, annoying younger brother character from the last game with bolts through his Achilles and some fucking,
a hole in his chest where they're sticking a headphone. I think at this moment we're agreed that it is a, as you say, a very shocking place to start that creates all kinds of exciting questions about where this could possibly go.
Skullface is the name of this guy who has a skin condition.
Bad Skinman. If he had,
Bad Skinman.
if it had been a couple more years, we would have gotten that name.
He gives a cassette to Chico, and he says something very interesting to him. How does it feel to play traitor? He gives Chico the tape. He turns to his. I always wondered about these guys who worked for Skullface. I always thought about that. I mean, we'll get to it in DPP, but that was always weird to me. Just like that you could be a normal army guy and then you end up working for like, this guy.
Yeah.
But he's talking about. So he clearly has something in the works. They're planning for some type of airborne assault employing these very sinister looking black helicopters that he has now given this very strange black light thing to one of his troops to erase the markings off the tails of their helicopters. At this point, we have no idea what he could possibly be referring to, who this guy is, who he's aligned with, except for this weird reversed Fox logo, this XOF thing, and the fact that he seems to have Chico, our former mascot of MSF, in some type of horrible thrall.
Yeah.
Then we get, I think the reason that so many people ended up either consenting or just outright really liking Kiefer Snake, this incredible intro.
Yep. Great music by Ludwig Forssell, who is new to the series. There's a bit of Harry Gregson Williams in this, as there is in Phantom Pain as well. But Ludwig Forssell was also part of this kind of transition to a more modern sensibility and a new embodiment of the Metal Gear chic, and it really works. That clanging metallic theme that kicks in when you see Big Boss on the cliff, and then he climbs up on this wet cliff with a great shot of a classic snake crawl as the XOF helicopters, or previously labeled XOF helicopters, soar away from us, and he's got the that Cyclops headgear of night vision goggles, and he gives the classic line with the Kiefer twist.
Kept you winning. Huh?
Yeah, and that's the I think he sells it. And then that wonderful shot of him just on these cliffs, standing above Camp Omega, the entire layout of this Guantanamo Bay we have to infiltrate, and Snake ready to go. It's pretty thrilling.
An incredible character introduction to. I mean, Kiefer Snake pretty much is a new character, at least in the sense that he is a character that we have not heard given voice before. We talked about why this works, why it's necessary even, but I don't know if so many people would have accepted it if not for just such an incredible intro. And just to go back to the score, we didn't talk about it in our sort of preliminary, but I think that goes a long way towards adding to the sort of the general feeling of unease you get all throughout this game.
Yes. It's simpler, more stripped down musical ideas. There's percussive synths, minimalist, very pretty, but sort of minimalist, soft piano in moments where it's ambiguous. It's more ambiguous. There's not really sweeping melodies. The classic Metal Gear theme, which at that point, but we didn't mention this, but someone blabbed and blew the cover that Harry Gregson Williams kind of. I mean, I actually thought that was kind of bullshit. Like, yeah, he kind of ripped off an old Russian composer's theme. I'll plug it in here. at this point, I think Kojima would have dropped it anyway, because I think now he wants you to have this music that kind of implies a vacuum of anything as confident or as you say, heroic as what we were familiar with in MGS4 and to a lesser degree Peace Walker.
I love the thud of this intro too, because at this point we don't know a lot. We don't know who this guy is, what his relationship to Chico is. We do know that through his conversation with Kaz that Big Boss is here to get Chico and Paz. But we do know, at least I think it's apparent if this is your first time playing it and you have no familiarity with Phantom Pain, that this is kind of a trap that Big Boss is walking into. But seeing like a beloved like mascot character like Chico, like a literal innocent child who is the star of another very sinister scene, like with physical marks of torture on him, in thrall to this horrifying looking villain, because even if you don't know anything, you could probably figure out this guy is a villain.
He's not on the up and up. He doesn't look like he's on the up and up. Yeah. And
at least the Big Boss, you knew in Peace Walker, you would think, hell yeah, he's gonna fucking kill this guy, and he's gonna get them back, and he's gonna make Paz good, and then they can be together because she's actually 26. But with it actually being the sort of ambivalent scumbag Big Boss, the thud of him just unconsciously stumbling into this trap and not really giving a shit.
Yeah.
Thematically, so good.
Yes. Yeah, you don't really... There's an ominous quality to Big Boss's entrance and music as well. It's not as outwardly villainous as Skullface, but it doesn't really... it's not Snake jumping onto the tanker in MGS2. It's far from that.
Yeah. Because, even though all of Snake's victories, you could say, until 4 are these sort of hollow victories, there is still, like, the feeling of reassurance you get from him cannot be ignored. Because no matter what the circumstances of the situation he's entering in, no matter what they are, no matter how contrived they are, no matter how hollow his ultimate victory may be, in your heart, he is going to do his absolute best and is prepared to sacrifice himself to save the maximum amount of people.
He fights a witch.
He fights a fucking witch. They're like, Snake, she's a witch. And he's like, no, she's not. Yeah.
And then he shows up handcuffed and 15 minutes later.
I thought I was wrong.
He tried.
But with Big Boss, you really cannot get that assurance anymore.
Nope.
Maybe you could have at the start of Peace Walker, but not now.
And they say, we're going into rescue her, but as I mentioned earlier, the dialogue beforehand, he suggests, why don't we just kill her?
We are definitively now in the well, he's not really wearing shoes, but the one-piece outfit of Kiefer Snake.
Yes.
You're pretty quickly given the controls. You start out on this cliff face. You have a kind of a bird's eye view of Camp Omega. There is a guard tower about 40 meters from you. It's sort of your first obstacle in the game is to mark like the 6 or 7 guys within 100 meters of you. The one thing I really don't like about this game, and that thankfully there is a mod for this on PC, I didn't think about it at the time when I first played it, but when you go back, especially when you're trying to like S rank everything on both difficulties, you really start to go, Kaz, can you shut the fuck up?
Yeah.
But this is not a knock on Robin Atkin Downs at all. This is not his fault. But both in this main mission of Ground Zeroes and in all the side missions, if you look at your iDroid or anything for even a second, Kaz will pipe up and he will give you the most bullshit advice. In fact, one of the things he tells you in this first 30 seconds of gameplay, there's a guard. If you take him out, you should use a weapon. Kaz's advice, he's talking to fucking Big Boss, the greatest soldier on Earth.
Yep.
And he's like, Snake, if you want to move around, you should move one foot in front of the other.
Well,
However, if you want to move faster than that, you should try a technique called running. Push the left analog stick all the way forward to run.
This is a little bit of the trade-off. We talked about this, we referenced this before. This is when it fully happens. This is where codec calls are gone and everything is on the fly. Tapes replace codec calls for longer narrative sections. But in the olden days, yes, the kernel calls you in the beginning of MGS2, and so does Major Zero, but you can skip those. You can just fast forward. In this, you just have to listen to Kaz every single time because it's no longer something you have control over in the sense of a codec call. He is just buzzing in your ear.
Yeah. You really, if this was like a subtle character thing, great job. Because it really explains what happens in the next game.
Yeah.
Why maybe he didn't want to hang out with his friend anymore. But a little tip, if you are on PC, get the Shut Up Kaz mod on Nexus Mods. And if you have a smart TV, which I don't see how you would have anything else but a smart TV, because they are subsidized now.
Yep.
What you can do is you can call the manufacturer, whoever they are in South Korea, and you can. Who else is making smart TV?
Yeah.
South Korea.
Yep.
But here's what you do.
I have a North Korean smart TV personally.
North Korea. I would love a North Korean smart TV.
It tells me what I should watch.
But you call the manufacturer and say, "Hey, I have some fucking old person at my house. They have a pacemaker or something, or the vocal cord parasites. You know, just say there's a bunch of. I'm taking care of a fucking old person. They have a bunch of equipment. We can't have the TV doing all this Wi-Fi." And they will give you a code that turns off the smart bullshit, and you'll just have a regular TV.
The Shut Up Kaz mod of modern television.
Anyhow, we are well on our way. We've talked about all the gameplay changes, the changes in physicality of controls. Finally, again, Peace Walker is kind of a hybrid with the incredibly weird choice of having your offensive actions be on the bumper, not the trigger. Now it is all on the trigger. You aim with left, you shoot or initiate CQC with right. Marking, we talked about that. Your mission, you can do this in any order, but the way that it is heavily suggested you do it is you first have to find the prison camp, which is along the cliffside of Camp Omega. That is where you were going to get Chico, and then you don't really know Paz's location, but you figure it's somewhere deeper in camp, and there are multiple methods you can either figure it out or just get to where she is. But I do like that you can do this in any order. It is pretty nerve-wracking if you do it in the quote-unquote wrong order, because when you rescue Paz, they do kind of, you have about 2 minutes before they notice she's gone, and it puts the entire place on alert. Whereas that no one cares about Chico. Well, I mean, Chico is like they are kind of both Trojan horses, as we'll find out. But no one cares about Chico. I'm sorry. We've gone over the gameplay, but the specific feeling of navigating these sort of like these zones on the southern part of the map as you're first making it over to Chico that are heavily dotted with tents and have denser congregations of guards. This is really when like both the Fox engine and sort of the new philosophy on guard intelligence and routes and behaviors really just fucking sings. Because I mean, the core gameplay of the games in the Solid series, at least, of figuring out these very tight guard timings and windows of opportunity it's great, obviously, but there's only so many ways to skin a cat. With this, it really does feel like not endless, because no game is endless. There's a bottom to everything, but it feels like the guard behavior and AI and the environments itself, everything feels dynamic enough that every playthrough of this main mission has felt a little different. This first part where you are making it over to the prison camp is definitely on the easier side of this main mission. But there are 2 guards walking around the prison camp. It is pretty easy to take them out, since your tranquilizer pistol, which is a very cool Ruger-looking thing. Little side note here. This is the first game in the series where there are no longer licensed guns.
Yep.
I've heard multiple reasons given for this. For Phantom Pain, which continues this, they said it was because you end up being able to customize all your guns.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that affects licensing when you swap out one part for another. But I don't know. I've played a lot of Tom Clancy and like COD type stuff where you can heavily customize weapons.
Mm-hmm.
That all have licensed guns, and you can put on different barrels and different sights and all types of shit. I've heard conflicting things. I've heard that this was a personal choice by Kojima himself, that he felt like it was sort of weird to have these games that are anti-war, anti-nuclear, that are about this idea that modern security services and militaries are sort of fundamentally corrupt and self-perpetuating.
Right.
And then to
represent their products.
Yeah, to go, okay, here's your cut from our game about that to these gun companies.
Yeah.
I've also heard that these games were famously very over budget.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how much those licenses cost, because I've seen some pretty dinky games license guns. Ultimately, we have no real way of knowing. Maybe the DoD just really hated Kiefer Snake.
So it's just like, yeah.
There are only two Marines guarding the prison camp, confirming that no one gives a fuck about Chico.
No.
You can trank these guys and just leave them out in the rain. One thing that made me laugh is one of Kaz's useless calls to you is, this rain just won't let up. Well, it will make you harder to see, but just make sure you don't get pneumonia. Anyhow, let's talk about this first scene where Big Boss rescues Chico.
Mm-hmm.
I love this scene. We talked about the sort of ambiguity and the ignobility of Kiefer Snake. This scene is so fucking alarming, and it works on a lot of different levels. Chico's reaction to seeing Snake is not, oh, hooray, I'm saved again, but he doesn't want him anywhere near him. Kiefer Snake ends up sort of doing this, it's called a cross choke in gi, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it works no gi too if you have to choke out a child like this. You grab
one of the first things you learn, I assume.
Yeah, you you grab someone by the collar with your forearms in sort of an X shape, and you press against their carotid artery. And even a child who has been subjected to weird deep state experiments and has a bolt through his Achilles, it'll put them right out. But this is a really claustrophobic and brutal scene.
Because you sneak into his, the prisoners here are being housed in like animal cages, essentially.
Yeah,
and you sneak into his to get him out, but he's struggling, and then you have to start choking him, and you're just surrounded by the bars of the cage, and finally, he whimpers and passes out. But the whole time you're worried he's going to alert more guards. I mean, in the context of the cutscene, and it's very tense and sweaty and just sort of uncomfortable.
Yeah. We've talked about that great, actually very sinister scene of Big Boss recruiting a child soldier in Peace Walker.
Yeah.
I love this scene. And again, another point to the voice switch working. Just how not reassuring he is now.
Right.
With Hader, who matches those sort of soaring, exhilarating leitmotifs for that version of Snake, he always he puts his foot in his mouth sometimes, but in situations like this, he always says the right thing. He always he gets people to find the strength within themselves or whatever the fuck. There's just something so like greasy and slimy about.
Like, would you want to see this guy if you were Chico? You know, you've just like you're finally not being tortured anymore. You're only being tortured because of your association with this guy, and then he shows up in your cell after you finally get to chill out and listen to Joan Baez, and he's like, "All right, come with me. I'm going to make you walk on your bolt seat." And you're just like,
I have some soda in my helicopter.
just like, get stranger fucking danger. I'm not falling for this one again. You should have sent me to a fucking refugee camp last time. Instead, you conscripted me into your mercenary army at age 10.
You ruined my life. So, I also there is some good non-tutorializing Kaz radio messages here before this scene too. With a little backstory explaining that the reason Chico is here is because he heard that Paz was being held at this black site, this cipher black site at Camp Omega. Snake and Kaz decided to send Chico with his sister Amanda, who is on deployment in Cuba. Mm-hmm. They were purposely getting her away from the base, it turns out, during the IAEA inspection, because they thought it would look bad if there were Soviet operatives, in their words, on the base during the inspection. Mm-hmm. But they sent Chico to hang out with his big sister because he was really down on himself for not reporting that Paz was sabotaging Zeke in the last game.
Right. Because he had a crush on Paz. And of course, Chico, being on deployment with Amanda in Cuba, took the opportunity to try to fucking sneak into Gitmo and rescue his crush, which is really sweet and really fucking sad. Yes. Remind me, what happens to it? Does Amanda live, or does it?
No, Amanda lives. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So she's just in Cuba and has been separated from Chico.
Yeah. No, I mean, Amanda, out of anyone, probably gets one of the happier endings.
Just wish her dad didn't deal all those damn drugs in Nicaragua to fund his stupid revolution.
I hate Soviet crack.
It's just not something about it. It's just off.
Yeah.
But and another thing I like, by the way, as we're clearing Chico out of here, is just the line read or the line itself when Kaz is like, can he walk with you? You know, can he escape? And you pan over and you see the bolts in his feet, and Snake just goes, not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And again, it's this sort of half sarcastic reaction to a child's feet being perforated by metal bolts.
He's not running any track meets anytime soon.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't sound all that bothered by it. It's just an inconvenience. But yeah, so then we lug Chico over our shoulder now that we've choked him out.
Little note that I love for this. There are two different versions of the scene you get depending on whether you rescued all the other POWs who are held in the prison camp with Chico or not. Which I think that's awesome. I love. There's tons of things like that in this game. You get different. There are subtle but pretty noticeable differences depending on whether you rescue Paz first, depending on what order you do all these things in. It's very cool.
The other prisoners start like clanging and yelling if you just take Chico, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. They're like, please take me, you know, and they start making a ruckus and you get freaked out and you have to get out of there.
I usually end up getting them all because it makes me feel so bad not to.
Yeah. And we should emphasize, I mean, this is, you know, maybe our first moment here of talking about a specific way in which this might have shocked audiences at the time, in a way that I find to be laudable on Kojima's part, is that, yes, this takes place in 1974, and the U.S. had Guantanamo Bay for, you know, years before we knew it as a notorious war on terror camp. But this is a direct commentary on Guantanamo Bay post-Bush. And in the Obama era, in which everyone was celebrating how we don't have to think about any of this shit anymore, at that. And there's people with bags over their heads, and it's directly borrowing from, in a way that doesn't feel tacky, it's borrowing from the, at that moment, still fresh, broken promise of the Barack Obama administration saying that they would close this.
Yes.
And that's where we're finding a 11 or 12-year-old child, among other people, with black bags over their heads out in the rain in animal cages.
Yes. And by the way, Obama's broken promise is explicitly referenced in the closing credits to this main mission, which, again, like, there have been a lot of dark periods in games, but just politically, this was a really dark period. This sort of like late Obama first term, early Obama second term. Another big stealth franchise that had a release around this time, Splinter Cell, with Splinter Cell Blacklist the year prior in 2013, also had a Guantanamo Bay level in their game. Explicitly called Guantanamo Bay, taking place during the War on Terror. It was set in the present day. For Splinter Cell's version, the first game in the series that didn't have Michael Ironside, by the way, Sam Fisher makes zero commentary on anything about Gitmo, even though he had himself sort of like illegally placed in there to get some bad Iranian guy because it's 2014. And in fact, you get an instant game over if you even kill a guard dog.
Like, as opposed to this game where we'll get to it, but in a side mission, you are contracted to assassinate a couple of Marines working at this base
by the KGB.
by the KGB as revenge for their Vietnamese colleagues.
Yeah,
or sorry, Laotian colleagues.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah, they go out of their way to identify all the enemies that you actually face in gameplay as U.S. Marines. Yep. Obviously, there is some specific to Metal Gear weirdness of this being a cipher facility and all that. We'll get more into what that means and what I think their ambitions were for what Cypher is supposed to represent at this juncture in the story. Right. But it was an incredibly ballsy decision, especially at this time. People were really not that brave when they were making their milsim or milsim light shooters at this time in the industry, because as we alluded to, among other things, games were getting incredibly expensive to make, and if you could make them cheaper by either getting licenses or I always wonder if they make Remedial Soldiers do motion capture for Activision. But whatever,
I'm sure Chris Pratt is on that program.
Yeah. There was sort of a weird 2017 Twitter style left liberalism that was popular briefly in some games during the first Trump administration. And now games have kind of gone back to mean. They're not quite as jingo as games released around the time of Ground Zeroes were, but also we're not getting a repeat of Elizabeth Warren voters writing games for the time being. But
whereas Kojima in his new game Death Stranding 2 has you answering to a shifty, corrupt president who has the company called APAC tattooed to his head.
I love him.
It's not spelled the exact same way, but I mean, if that's an oversight, I'll be a monkey's uncle.
I love him. It's like that. Nothing will ever make me stop loving him. And it's like, yeah, we're not the guys on YouTube who'll go, actually, Phantom Pain's supposed to feel like bad and the ending is supposed to feel shitty. It's genius. Like he's obviously failable like anyone else.
Yeah.
But one thing you cannot say about him, besides him being like a fucking groundbreaking figure in games, and a true honest to God auteur, is he's incredibly ballsy. He will do a lot of things that a lot of people in the same industry would not dare even think of. Ground Zeroes is a great example of that. There's a fifth prisoner, or sixth, I guess it would be, that you can get during this main mission. He's actually all the way on the other side of the southern part of the camp. He's an escape prisoner, and you only have so long to get him after you get Chico. But if you don't get him in time, but you're in proximity, you will actually see these Marines receive orders to and then carry out a summary execution of this escape prisoner. Again, like, game over in Splinter Cell. You didn't even... I got a game over once for just electro-shocking a dog.
But yeah, so presumably you're going to get Chico first, and you run over to the landing zone. I almost said Pequot, but it's Morpho, who...
named after the Morpho butterfly.
Yes. Who shows up, and you dump Chico unceremoniously into the helicopter.
Hey, kid, we have some Fresca in there. Don't drink the Kahlua, that's mine.
But now we have to... Chico gives us a tape. And this is optional, of course. I mean, upon playthroughs, you know where everything is. The first time I played this, I thought it was really fun how you listen to Chico's tape because it's being recorded the first time that he was transported to the same place they're now holding pause. So there's audio clues, and Kaz is kind of walking you through it. But if you're new to these games, or if you're new to this game, it still feels pretty exhilarating. You can try to piece together what part of the base she's at by subtle, sounds and cues like the flapping of a flag or a certain truck or whatever, and it'll lead you to the general area where you need to now locate your second target.
I really love this, and it is sort of a riff on a more primitive form of this we saw in Peace Walker with, locating the guard with an orange coat who has your key card by finding the birds. In fact, the first time I played this, I ended up doing it just going completely by sound, which you are completely capable of doing. Really, really cool way of doing it. You can, of course, there are multiple ways of getting to this facility that's way deeper in the camp, past a bunch of more fortified parts of it. The easiest way is there is a truck that you can hop into the back of that just drives all the way into the camp.
Yes.
I will say, I have only ever gotten an S rank by taking the truck and by not rescuing the escaped prisoner.
Because time is such a factor.
Time is a huge deal with this.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's way easier to get S ranks in this game than Peace Walker. I don't think it's possible to get an S rank anywhere in Peace Walker if you have even one kill on a mission. So, this second half of the main Ground Zeroes mission, it brings us into the deeper organs of Camp Omega. And I think the entire level is incredibly well done. But going back, I find these levels, the big airfield and the most northern end of the facility that is built around that boiler room that they're keeping pause in, to be the strongest parts of the level.
You can sneak into the sort of power grid section. You can cut the power to the base, which freaks everybody out, but also removes some obstacles like the searchlights and things that might be a pain in the ass, especially on a higher difficulty. You can, as you said, you can just take the truck in and they'll open a gate that otherwise you can't get through. They really gave you a nice salad of options, depending on how you want to approach the mission.
There are a few security cameras in this part of the level too. And if you shoot out any security cameras, because you do not get chaff grenades, you will pretty much instantly get like a small team of guys to come and investigate it.
I really love this part because the timing can be incredibly tight if you are going for that S rank and especially going for no kills. You make it through all of that. This is much more densely packed with a lot more vertical hazards than you had earlier in the map. You find Paz, who she's in the same orange jumpsuit that we saw Chico in, but she seems in even worse shape. Her head has been shaved. She looks like she's just been beaten endlessly. She's
delirious.
Delirious, yeah.
Which, again, I think is a more or less direct reference to Abu Ghraib photos. She's in a stressed position. She's being sort of hung by her arms. The famous black hood, which we've seen the black hoods.
Very, very deliberate and pretty unmistakable. This is where not only do the stakes get raised, because if you shot out cameras or you probably tranked a lot of guys on your way here, they're getting found now. People are realizing cameras got shot out. They're going to investigate the power that you cut out. You also only have about 2.5 minutes before they realize that Paz, she's not in her holding cell. Whichever extraction zone you get to, however you do it, no matter what, I've always found it to be incredibly tense, no matter how familiar I get with this game. But it's also where they really raise the feelings of things feeling uneasy and off. They've been feeling very uneasy and alarming and just everything being off by that much in every way so far. But the things that Paz is saying to you while you are carrying her on your shoulders, navigating your way to whatever helicopter pickup, are really fucking disturbing. She says things to you like, hit me more.
Maybe a little bit of a reference to Cyborg Ninja, which is a famous thing he says in the first game is hurt me more to Snake. But
we've had escort missions. We've had to rescue people. We've had to look after characters that are physically helpless for whatever reason. But we've never had someone who's been broken like this and in such a way where you feel like the original person, whoever they are, in Paz's case,
right,
is never coming back. Another thing with it that I felt this the most strongly the first time I played it. This feeling in your first playthrough of, in this moment, very badly wanting to believe in the legend of Big Boss. That you badly want to believe that this sort of like greasy, slimy guy, that there is that hero somewhere in him, the guy who says the right thing, who can help people snap out of it, the guy who helped Eva to the wig. You hope he's there. If there's any of that guy left, I hope he fucking shows up.
It's a great moment because after Peace Walker, as silly as Peace Walker can be in its tone, the final speech he gives is pretty chilling, at the end of Peace Walker. And what he's declared by that point, and I think arguably is now in the early stages of exhibiting, is that we don't have ideology. We don't have neither victory nor death. But really what it's saying is we don't stand for anything.
Yeah.
Don't expect us to be motivated by anything but our own adrenaline and money. And that's not exactly who you maybe want to be the last guy, the guy standing between Skullface and a bunch of hostages.
That is a particularly horrifying element. Not just like the material aspect of running this PMC, but yeah, the naked admission of the only time we actually kind of feel okay is at war. And for as much as we are doing this just for money, we're also doing it because it's the only thing that's still kind of fun to us.
And which is rather unhealthy. And replaying Snake Eater, there really is a pretty great development from Snake Eater to now of Big Boss's ideas, because what begins as the righteous indignation about what it means to be a tool of the government, as is said in several of these games, you do sympathize with it. You know, at the end of Snake Eater, when he's getting applauded, you're like, yeah, why would you ever want to be beholden to this heartless collection of suits? But it's such an easy way to get to the MSX games, where he says, I will make sure that the only constant is death and destruction, because that's what allows my children, these soldiers, sometimes starting literally as children, that's the only way to keep them free. I would argue that Big Boss, as villains go in this series, is about as evil as Skullface or anyone else at that stage. But it all comes from that initial kind of initial betrayal, but then a growing paternal instinct that you can kind of sympathize with and understand. And now we're in that gray area. That really does come together. That part really does come together.
Oh, yeah. One of the reasons that I wish Phantom Pain had another year is this is one of the things I feel like they actually did succeed with in Skullface. Skullface is obviously all these games are kind of about mirrors and dualities, but the Big Boss Goes to Hell trilogy they get deeper into it than at any other part in the series. It's more about those things. There are more of those things than the rest of the series combined. Skullface, in a lot of ways, he's supposed to be a mirror to a lot of different figures and institutions. He is kind of supposed to be a mirror to Zero. He's kind of supposed to be a mirror to, you know, we subbed up Zero's ideal world as the Klaus Schwab New World Order rap. But also he's such a perfect mirror to Big Boss that there's actually a pretty fan theory that I think in actual practicality I don't think really works out or makes sense, that there's a triple Fight Club thing going on here. Not only is Skullface Big Boss is also Venom Snake. And he's split his personality in 3.
Okay. Well, that's better than some less than persuasive ones that he is literally Naked Snake, which makes zero sense. But because there's that one trailer.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting theory, but I do at least think that they want us to think a lot about Big Boss and Skullface, how much they mirror each other, not just in life experiences, but motives, really their methods of doing things. Another thing that I like about this theory, and why it works when you don't take it really literally, I like the unstated idea that Venom's heroism also proliferated through the system and ended up inside of Solid Snake. Very unstated. Maybe they didn't even mean to say that, but it's kind of something I interpreted that I really like. One thing you cannot say about Venom is that he's as selfish as the real Big Boss.
Yeah. I mean, this is where again I start to despair, because I love all the possibilities in this game about this new premise of Skullface and XOF and where Zero's going to fit into it. And there's some places that I'm satisfied with some of it in Phantom Pain, but it's all to be decided in the future. But I suppose we should say Paz has been brutally tortured, and we'll learn, how far they go. And we get her to the chopper, take her on board, head off back to Mother Base, where, as mentioned at the very top, the International Atomic Authority inspectors are probably wrapping up. We've hidden our Metal Gear from Peace Walker. No one's going to figure that out. And we'll get a clean bill of health on the international stage.
Yeah, it is a call between Huey and Big Boss. Very small appearance from Huey, but very, very important. He's hidden Zeke and their nuke on the ocean floor. The guards are not going to be armed. Everything is set up perfectly. Huey says by the time that they're done, they'll be saying that MSF is a model for nuclear disarmament or for compliance, he says. And the last thing Big Boss says is, "Make me proud, Huey." what follows is what this scene really makes me recoil. It's supposed to.
It's pretty graphic.
But
yeah.
Medic! She's rigged. Damn it, we were set up!
We gotta get it out. No time for anesthetic. We have to open her now.
Hold her down. Hold her down!
we've alluded to this being a setup, a Trojan horse. This is what we think the setup is. Paz has been rigged. Her symptoms of deliriousness, her having a fever, they're all owed to her having an infection due to a literal bomb being placed inside of her stomach. The MSF medic, who is on Morpho with Big Boss, with Chico, and Paz. Kind of weird that the other prisoners that you rescue aren't on here. I guess canonically you never get them.
Yeah, it's true. Canonically you don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Really graphic scene of Big Boss holding Paz down and yelling to Chico to help hold her down, while the medic, who cannot give her anesthetic because she's too physically weak and close to death and there isn't enough time, just takes these really horrible looking infected stitches out and digs the bomb out of her stomach. It's a really fucking brutal scene.
Once, they get it, they throw it out, it explodes in the ocean. We make it to Mother Base, and we get there, and Mother Base is ablaze. It's falling apart. There's explosions triggering, and this is, for anyone who played Peace Walker, this is what you built, and what canonically Big Boss built the entirety of that chapter is the MSF. Is his private military company with hundreds, if not thousands, of people connected to it. And it's all crashing down. While we were gone, I suppose at this point it's a little ambiguous, but XOF/Cypher struck this base and through some level of infiltration prepared to do so, while we thought we were getting the better of Cypher by sneaking in and getting Paz and Chico.
The scene that follows, I think, is sometimes I like it even better than the opening. The scene of Big Boss trying in vain to rescue an already doomed Mother Base. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this just one single shot?
I believe so. You hop off the helicopter and then you kind of like lose Big Boss for a second. And then Kaz calls him back and he just realizes this is futile. And he gets back on the helicopter, but he screams. It's kind of the only emotion you really see from him is his entire life's work at this point crashing down.
I love this scene. Obviously, it's incredibly well directed. If you look, I'll be honest. If Big Boss was a real person and not a character, I would be like one of those Johnny Depp people for Big Boss. Like, thank God he isn't real, because I would even be like,
those kids signed up for this.
Yeah, like I would even like when it was a more cancelable environment in 2017 or something, I would be like, I'm obviously not a Big Boss supporter, and then you would check my likes, and it would just be all stuff like, Outer Heaven's more racially progressive than the United States.
Yeah. No, that would be
he's
the
such
move.
a bad guy for teaching kids how to read. I'm just faving all of them.
Yep.
But I love this scene because for as skeezy and ambivalent as Big Boss has seemed this entire game that we've played so far, you see just enough of that original guy poking through that you completely get why so many people follow him so fervently.
Yep.
When he jumps off the helicopter and he's just in a pure rage, and you could argue over whether it is rage over Cypher or XOF or whoever, literally taking away his life's work, his scumbag private military company, or that it's his empathy and fury at his soldiers dying.
And maybe his own feeling of culpability in their fate.
Yeah. When he kind of just loses it after he sees the RPG hit that like last detachment of MSF guys, and how it seems like he's going to go down with the entire thing until he notices Kaz screaming for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fucking good.
I also love that Kaz, setting up the tragedy of their relationship, the only thing that actually tore Big Boss away from this sort of attempt to somehow rescue this situation is Kaz's voice.
Yes.
It's the only person who could get through to him in that moment.
Yes. Yeah. That leads us back to Morpho. And this is where we get the infamous "played us like a damn fiddle" line.
It's okay. I heard explosions, Stick. They played us like a damn fiddle! Give it back! This isn't right, that was ours! We built it, damn it! You spine bitch! Come on, start talking, bitch!
What do you think about this, though? We will probably spend a ton of time on this later, but this idea that I do not think that Kaz intentionally, like, set up the fall of Mother Base. I don't think he knew that, like, Paz was rigged with a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
In the tape that I alluded to in another episode, it's heavily implied that he was not in the room when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even more than Snake, he feels culpable. And he kind of is culpable.
I think at the very least, whether or not there's an implication here that either Kaz was present during one of the Skullface tapes, and or that this is all a version of events that happened being fed to a different character in order to obscure Kaz's culpability. I think that at the very least, he is obviously, I mean, he said, actually part of the reason why I think there's evidence against that second thing is that in Phantom Pain, he talks about working with Cypher immediately. As soon as you find him, he's guilt-stricken and vocally guilt-stricken about working with Cypher from Peace Walker. And so his character is about to become one of the most, Kazuhiro Miller is like maybe the most vengeance-driven character, or just, a character driven by pure rage and anger in the series. Part of it is a self-loathing that he feels and a punishment and a guilt that he's inflicting on himself for ever working with the organization that would have done this to the people he loves.
Yeah, there's a video I really like about Phantom Pain, and I think we'll probably put it in the description for when we do our episode on that. That presented this theory, a more comprehensive version of this theory about Kaz's relationship to Cypher that I think he argues quite well. And he argues that the fiddle line, it's not that it's feigned anger. Like, he really is devastated.
But he's performing a little bit.
He's performing a little bit, and he's sort of transferring his anger at himself onto Paz. I think that at least is almost inarguable, that second thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about it when we get to Phantom Pain, but there are just so many little things, like him refusing to get prosthetics, that just screamed to me.
Guilt.
That, yeah. Guilt and culpability.
Oh, I think that's inarguable, because Kaz flips out. He says the famous line, and he tries to basically kill Paz on the helicopter. He's in his rage. He wants to strangle her, and the medic, I believe, protects her.
Yeah, the medic is the only guy holding him back because Big Boss does that great. Don't
Big
ask
Boss
me.
is like, well, it's nothing to do with me.
Hey, Morpho, do we have any more Kaluva?
Do we have any Fanta? And
can you give Chico a no duels?
because what we're getting to here, she's staggering around the helicopter. Big Boss isn't going to help her. Kaz wants to actively kill her, and then she realizes that remembers that there's another bomb. It's heavily implied that they placed it in her vagina. It's heavily implied. And in an effort to, I suppose, save everybody else in an act of redemption or whatever you want to call it, she opens the hatch, or if maybe it's already open, but she launches herself out of the helicopter. She opens it, and she launches herself out of the helicopter. Now, Snake does yell no.
This may be the part of me that would be posting articles that are like, why you're wrong about child soldiers in outer heaven. But I feel like, I don't know. It's hard to interpret a ton here because he doesn't say a lot.
Yep.
And that very ambivalent, hey, don't look at me.
Yeah.
But it does feel like he's almost paralyzed until she literally is exiting the helicopter.
Yeah.
And you could almost interpret that as that last no, him reaching out to her as the flames rush into Morpho.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last bit of Naked Snake.
Sure. Yeah. I like that as much as anything. And she explodes. It takes out the helicopter. We start to tailspin. Not only are we tail spinning in our own helicopter, a second chopper then crashes into our own and is a flash of white with essentially a to be continued. And at the very end, it does say to be continued in the Phantom Pain, but in that moment, that's the end. That's the end of Ground Zeroes. There's a brief postscript saying that the wreckage of Mother Base could be seen for miles and miles, and that the media and politicians blamed, what do they say, like irresponsible private military contractors for some conflagration. Cypher is not connected to it publicly at all, despite what we learn with Kaz freaking out. And that's all we know for the moment. And the credits roll, and then there is a postscript, as there always is, with Skullface. And this, I believe, takes place before the events of the end of the game because he's talking to Paz, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Cypher's been in hiding ever since his grand experiment. No one's seen him in years. All we hear are orders delivered by proxy. Except you. You met with him, face to face, in order to contact Big Boss. Tell me where he is. Where is Cypher? Where is Zero?
He wants to find Zero. That's what we learn about Skullface, is even stitching Big Boss up is a way for him to reach his true prize, which is Zero.
So all I have to say about this and all the stuff that Skullface says in Ground Zeroes about Big Boss, I go back and forth with it, but I overall think it's a failure of Phantom Pain.
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, okay, so in this scene, Paz is giving up the location of MSF and will then act as a Trojan horse under the agreement that XOF or Skullface, that he will spare Big Boss if he can kill Zero.
Right.
What is heavily implied in some of the tapes, especially the Chico tapes, is that Skullface hates Big Boss. But then Skullface explicitly says, I don't hate him. He probably doesn't even know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I like this characterization. I like in Phantom Pain that he sees Venom and Diamond Dogs in general as just kind of a nuisance.
Mm-hmm.
But then that doesn't really explain a lot of his behavior. Of course, this can be rationalized with the only reason he did this, why he committed this assault on MSF, was to like fully ignite the conflict between Big Boss and his allies and Zero.
To draw Zero out as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, this is why I wish there was more time, not just spent on Phantom Pain, but this entire story.
Yep.
Is because I don't feel like they're entirely consistent here. Sometimes it feels like he is going, like Skullface and XOF, they're taking immense lengths specifically to spite either MSF or later Diamond Dogs and Big Boss. Like they're dedicating vast amounts of resources to them.
You're other times it's all about Zero. Yeah, you're pushing an open door. You're pushing an open door with me. We'll save it for Phantom Pain because, frankly, I think in Phantom Pain, Skullface is all over the place. I mean, he has like two big super weapons, and I wish they just picked one. He seems to have multiple motivations. I wish they had picked like an overarching one that is clearly identifiable. One of the super weapons and like philosophies he espouses, I find to be somewhat undercooked. You got no argument for me on any of that. But what is clear here in Ground Zeroes is that I think it's just implied at the end here that what he really wants is not even Big Boss, but he wants our common enemy, Zero.
And I like that. I like that a lot.
Me too.
I like that a lot because this horrifying, like the end of this world, that if you did all the stuff in Peace Walker, you spent hours and hours on these characters that you grew so attached to, this thing you were so proud of that you built up. It was all wiped away in a fucking second. And it wasn't even really the main thing.
Yep.
The guy who did it was thinking about.
You were one of the eggs in which are broken for the omelet, and that's all you were. Yeah, I think that's a great villain entrance. But we'll get to the rest of that next time. In the meantime, is there anything you want to say about the tapes? Because there's a fair amount of tapes in this game. There'll be a ton in the next game. Actually, I guess one thing we should bring up is one tape in particular is what you were referring to at the top of the episode, one of the most controversial elements of the game. It's optional. You have to hunt through these tapes to hear it, but it is a tape of Paz and Chico while they are both held captive by XOF, where Chico is made by the sadistic guards to have sex with Paz, to rape her. It's a very disturbing tape, and some people had a problem with it, I think, at the time of the release, and I'm sure since. But the Chico tapes in general are very nasty, and Chico himself dies in the helicopter, so it's both of these characters have an incredibly dark end in this game through these tapes. There's a lot of other tapes. I mean, I don't know how you feel about the tape system in general, because it, as we referenced earlier, it basically replaces the codec, and that changes the way the game is played. It changes the flow of the game and how you have to take a more active approach in some ways to getting information. I mean, back in the other games, you could call the codec over and over and over in the same way, like fishing for new stuff. So I suppose that was active in its way. But now there's like pretty important story stuff that you have to go to the tapes in order to hear it all.
There are things about it I didn't love with Peace Walker, chiefly among them the UI.
Yeah.
The UI was such that it buried a lot of tapes for a pretty long time. People weren't even aware that they were getting them a lot of the time. But as a narrative tool replacing the system of codec, I think overall it's a good change. This is one of the quality of life things they did in Delta that I actually think is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
They made it so that when you skip a line in codec now, you can
kill the voice track. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think is great because a lot of codec calls that have very good and interesting character moments and interplay between characters. That happens after, someone is telling you what the start menu is.
Yes.
When you're well aware of what it does. Peace Walker was the most inelegant way that the tape system was given. Obviously, the UI is kind of bad. You cannot do anything while listening to the tapes.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Is you're just stuck like watching a portrait talk at you.
But again, though, I also don't hate that because for a lot of the greatest codecs, you're also not doing anything. I mean,
that's true.
You can zoom in sometimes, but
I guess it's just that the codecs are coming in the flow of gameplay, whereas the tapes is just like you're in a menu and just like lifeless. It can feel a little like, just sort of a slog to just go, now I'm going to listen to this clip and this clip and this clip. Whereas in Phantom Pain, just allowing you to do other things while that track list is playing, I think is the proper way to do it as an alternative to the codec, where you know that before and after the codec call, you're going to be in the action.
I mean, yeah, it shows what a big difference very marginal changes in player input make.
Yeah.
Because for more so my first go around playing Ground Zeroes, but actually still in Phantom Pain. I just having the animation of Big Boss or Venom in the helicopter, and you actually see him with the physical earbuds in.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference for me.
Yeah.
Because it feels like I'm actually I recovered this data, and I'm now I as Big Boss am now analyzing it.
And I do like how they gave you some Peace Walker tapes in this game that were relevant. Like Paz's diary, I believe, is carried over into Ground Zeroes, right?
I wanted to ask you, what you think now? So now that Paz is gone, and I will say, the year of speculation that led up to Phantom Pain, there were some really stupid fan theories. Thank God the fans don't write the games. One of the fan theories was that Quiet was Chico. That Chico survived that plane crash.
My God.
And became Quiet.
Are you kidding me?
No, that was a real theory.
Oh my God. Well, because I know that Chico, there was another story, like Chico was going to there's some aborted version of his story I think I read at one point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he was going to become kind of a Raiden-y sort of figure, like Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, but they were going to have it. Their original plan for the story is basically that he was driven insane by revenge, and he's going around the Angola Zaire border region where you operate, just killing PMCs. And Amanda was going to ask you to put him out of his misery.
See that?
Which I think
pretty
would have been
cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because he didn't really have to die in the helicopter. I guess just that was an easy way to get him out of the way, story-wise, if they didn't have time or space to do that. But yeah, that's what I remembered reading.
But, this is, we will see Paz again, but she is dead. She's dead. We won't see her actually as her and not the most gaslit man in history's mental projection ever again.
Yeah.
Another, as a character, not super divisive. I don't know. I've heard plenty of different evaluations on her. I like the concept of the diaries a lot, right? That my interpretation of the diaries, what they're supposed to be is, it's not that she is really so contemptuous of everyone at the start of these tapes, but it's her trying to talk herself into doing this horrible thing she doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
And again, I think this trilogy has some of the best writing in the entire series, but I think the first 9 of those tapes could have been better written to those ends.
I'm neutral on Paz as a character. I'm into Huey and I'm into Kaz,
Yeah.
most of all. I mean, R.I.P. Paz, R.I.P. Chico. In a sense, R.I.P. the Kaz that we knew.
Yeah.
And I do like that Huey it's just that one call. And you're like, yeah, where the fuck has Huey been? And he was so reassuring. So the next time you see him, you really want to throw a black bag over his head, which is exactly what we do. But yeah, shall we talk side missions before we close out?
Yeah. Few side missions here. There is, I think, the one we've referenced most extensively, eliminate the renegade threat. This is the one where you contracted by the KGB to eliminate these 2 Vietnam veteran Marines, one who was a combat sniper and one who was his spotter scout, for committing war crimes. This is not only, is the setup for the mission really interesting, very different from stuff people were doing at the time, or now for that matter. When you apprehend them, when you extract them instead of kill them, they went a really long way towards sort of building that mystery of what the fuck is going on here. one of them will go, I think, Palettes will say, just kill me. I hate myself. I have nightmares, blah, 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 whatever. Marine with PTSD, you still killed all those people, whatever. The other one, Glass, will say, are you one of them? And you keep hearing random prisoners and guards refer to them. Are you working with them? Are you one of them? You don't know what they're talking about, but it really, if you don't know where the story is going, it really fills you with anticipation of wondering what could possibly be scaring this like really scuzzy, hardened war criminal so much. But just in terms of gameplay, it is this is one of the few missions that is in broad daylight, which makes the actual task of either apprehending or killing these guys much harder. One is surrounded by a group of like 6 or 7 Marines, which makes it way harder because you don't, it's not Peace Walker. You don't have like a cardboard box that can shoot sleeping gas. For the fuck.
There's one where you have to smuggle a guy out of the base. There's one where you have to get, is it a tape? You get the intel acquisition.
That is the one where you're contracted by the Joint Chiefs of Staff to,
right.
This mission's kind of funny. The setup for this is the Joint Chiefs of Staff put an agent on this base to figure out what the fuck is going on here. And Kaz goes, they think it might be CIA, but we don't think it's like the U.S. military officially, because they wouldn't want to be caught like, blackbacking all these people. I don't think that undercuts like what the game is trying to say or anything, but it just always made me laugh. You do learn either if you extract both the bald guy and the original Joint Chiefs agent, or just get the tape, that Cypher is kidnap this guy's family and is threatening him if he doesn't entrap Big Boss.
Which we should say, all of these are non-canonical. You only went to Camp Omega that one time and had a great time. But these are all, they have a title card that comes before them saying this is a pseudo-historical recreation of what could have happened at Camp Omega in another universe. And I think in the helicopter one where you just shoot guys from the air, it's fun. It's like an arcade style level. But it's because the U.S. government is going to show up to destroy Camp Omega because they hate what's being done by Cypher so much.
You might be conflating the 2 missions. There's destroy the AA guns, which that's just done normally. And there is a twist.
Oh, right.
There's a twist there. You think the U.S. government is bombing Camp Omega, but it's actually Cypher planes. But then the one where you are basically, for 90% of the mission, you're shooting guys from the helicopter, then you go down into the airfield. That is the one where you rescue Kojima.
Yeah, and then there are the really cool missions that you unlock. Is it Deja Vu and Jamais Vu?
Yeah.
Deja Vu it might be my favorite side mission just because it's so cute.
Shadow Moses Island. Or not.
It's really, I think, Kojima knew this was maybe going to be his last few Metal Gear games. And so he said, I'm going to put in a rather loving tribute to MGS1 in this. And so you sneak around Camp Omega trying to recreate moments from MGS1. You sneak up and look at a Hind D helicopter or a gunship, try to place yourself around the corner from a surveillance camera. Cheekily, when you shut down the power on the camp, it is a blackout and Psycho Mantis appears. So those are really fun to see. But if you play, both on normal and hard, you get a quiz after in which Robin Atkin Downs, who's been kind of making jokes throughout the entire mission.
Impressive work, Snake. Mission complete is not what I'm here to say. Believe it or not, the real mission starts here.
Huh? This is not Master Miller. Snake, you're too late. It's me, dear brother.
I'm gonna ask you some questions about Metal Gear Solid 1.
He really puts some mustard on a bunch of lines, playing all these different characters from the original game. He does a Campbell line. He does a lot of Liquid Snake, and you have a quiz at the end that if you really want to complete the mission, you have to make it through on hard mode. Some pretty tough trivia.
Oh yeah. These are pretty difficult. Also, both of these missions are kind of bittersweet. And I think it's Jamais Vu is the one where you have to erase the logos of the games. There's a cause line that always kind of hits me, especially knowing what was going on with Kojima and Konami around the time of this game, which is you can erase the games, but the memories stay. And just the literal mission in part being to erase these games at a time when Konami was physically removing Kojima's name and likeness from a lot of games they were re-releasing and preventing a lot of public appearances by him. It is kind of sad.
Yeah,
it is pretty sad.
You get a Skullface style blacklight gun that can erase logos, which are scattered throughout. These are in Deja Vu as well. And when you look at them, before you erase them, if you look at them and call Kaz, he has a couple lines for each, and he'll say how many pixels Snake was in each game.
Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake. Snake was 16 by 32 pixels and 8 colors.
But by far the best is when you find the Portable Ops logo and you call Kaz, he goes, Metal Gear, huh? I don't remember that one. What does that say? It's a not so generous. I mean, if ever Kojima answered whether or not he finds that to be canon, I think it was in this side mission. To be fair, he does the same with Ghost Babel.
Metal Gear, what? I don't think I remember that one.
Yeah. Also, Jamais Vu stars Raiden.
Yes. It's a time-traveling Raiden.
Yeah. What an interesting mismatch of personalities on that helicopter. Fucking Kiefer, Snake, and Raiden. Are there two more different people?
Well, also, if that's him kind of giving his thoughts on the canonicity of Portable Ops, I think this is him giving his tacit approval of the canonicity of Revengeance. Because this is Revengeance Raiden. You know, it's
not MG4 Raiden.
No, he's fully rendered.
Revengeance.
He's fully rendered in Fox Engine as Revengeance Raiden, and will also be an unlockable skin in Phantom Pain. So that's kind of nice. That's kind of cute.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I wish you could unlock a secret helicopter ride with Kiefer, Snake, and Jack.
Yeah.
Because they really would not get along, I don't think.
Yeah, but these are fun side missions, and it does make Ground Zeroes very replayable, because while the main mission is very replayable, I think they, this sold for what, like $40 or $50 when it first came out?
$40, yeah.
Delta is selling for $80 right now. It's packed to the gills, Ground Zeroes. It's really fun and even more than Phantom Pain feels like the kind of wave goodbye. You know what I mean? Especially with some of these like fun side missions that are playing around with the history of the series and, bringing in Raiden to coexist with Big Boss and stuff. It's very lovely. And at the time was, just success in getting people ready for this new face of Metal Gear.
Yeah, I mean, it was controversial for being $40 and, being so comparatively short, but the actual consensus around the gameplay, the missions themselves, the sort of like self-referential stuff in here, which another thing that the game does way better than MGS4.
Oh, yeah.
Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. Snake's model was 14,000 polygons. I have you.
It was near universal acclaim, and I would say over time, people have, people don't remember paying $40 for a game in 2014, and now it's like, oh, we could be so fucking lucky to buy a game as good as fucking Ground Zeroes for $40.
Yep.
even though that was pre-Brandon money.
I don't know. Any remaining or final thoughts about Ground Zeroes? We knew, folks, that we wanted to talk about this as its own episode, and I'm glad we did, because it really does have as much to talk about as any of the other longer, like technically full games. We didn't want to squeeze it in as like a prelude to the Phantom Pain episode. But Felix, any final thoughts on Ground Zeroes? A Phantom Pain story.
I think we pretty much said it all. And yeah, we deliberated a lot over what we wanted to do. I'm really fucking glad we didn't do my original horrible idea, which was, why don't we just do Ground Zeroes and Phantom Pain all in one go?
Yep.
Which I think we would have both killed ourselves.
Yeah, no, this was smart. This was smart.
Yeah. But again, like, do we wish this game was longer or that there was more? Yeah, sure, whatever. But for what is in the game, for how it is presented, this is as close to perfect as anything gets.
Yep, it's the tanker chapter, circa 2014. I don't know. I really recommend people. Obviously, 5 is probably the most accessible game, control wise and like gameplay wise in this for a modern audience. But I do wonder if people tend to skip Ground Zeroes sometimes and go straight into Phantom Pain since they hear that that's the full game. So if you know anyone who's done that, tell them to get right and go back and play GZ.
Here's another great reason, by the way, to play to get Ground Zeroes. Even if you are only, you want to be able to Fulton people and do all this stuff. If you have a PC and you want to access the Ground Zeroes map in Phantom Pain with all your weapons and everything, if you can even fight Sahelanthropus.
Oh my God. That might be the thing that gets me a PC.
It's so worth it. Like, I just want to give a quick shout out to everyone in the MGSV modding community.
Yeah.
Especially, I was very excited to see this. The creator of Zeta, I will fuck up his name probably. Zipslaw. I'm sorry if I said it wrong. I saw that he thought that we're mutuals, and I got really excited because he made the amazing Zeta tool for Phantom Pain.
Now, what is that? For people who don't know, including me.
The original overhaul mod for Phantom Pain is this thing called Infinite Heaven. And it allows you to do things like repopulate side ops, replay experiences that you would otherwise have to start, like delete your data and start a whole new game for.
I do hate that in Phantom Pain, by the way.
It sucks. But this lets you use FOB items only whenever. You can use online items offline. It takes all the a lot of the grindy microtransaction-y parts. It either greatly lessens the pain or just removes it entirely. It allows you to replay experiences, to play totally new fan-created ones. There's some really great ones. There's endless customization. One thing that I'm really excited for is they're working on a new version of Zeta right now. And for people who maybe played this game pre-Zeta, they will know about Uncle Jimbo's Gun Pack, probably the greatest comprehensive gun mod ever for this game. Every gun, both from the series and even iconic guns that never made their way into the series before, are in this. The new release of Zeta, which I don't know when it will be, I know that they've been working on it for a while, that's going to have that fully integrated, so it will no longer break your game. But, if you are enticed by this, definitely buy Ground Zeroes, because that is the only way you will be able to access Camp Omega in Phantom Pain.
Right.
Through Infinite Heaven and Zeta. But just again, just wanted to say thank you to everyone in that modding community. Thank you for all the work that you do in keeping this game alive, because I still love this game, both these games, but it was very heartbreaking to when they came out, and I don't know if I ever would have really picked them back up again, if not for seeing the incredible mods that people made. Thank you guys so much, sincerely.
I second that, and I really might be on my way to getting a PC, and if I did, I couldn't think of a better reason. But yeah, that's Ground Zeroes. I'm excited to talk about Phantom Pain, but I'm also glad we did this separately because we got a lot of stuff out that it'll give us more room next time to get into the nitty gritty about the final entry in the Metal Gear Solid series.
Yeah. Thank fucking Christ, because I mean, both these games deserve a full-assed discussion.
Yes.
And I think it would be for whatever problems Phantom Pain does have, I think it would be a great disservice to that game to just go into there exhausted. And I think Ground Zeroes really did deserve it. It proved that it very much deserved its own episode.
Absolutely. We will see you next time in the mountains of Afghanistan and the border area of Angola and Zaire.
Oh my God. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Zeta is also the only way you can install the blowback mod.
Hey.
Phantom Pain.
Hey.